Have you ever noticed something strange? Prices seem to rise faster than your paycheck does. Groceries go up, rent increases, gas gets more expensive, but your income? It moves slowly, sometimes barely at all. And after a while, it starts to feel personal, like you're doing something wrong, like you should be working harder, negotiating better, making smarter choices. So let's ask the real question. If the cost of living keeps rising, why doesn't your paycheck keep up? Let's start with something that sounds obvious but matters more than most people realize. Over time, workers have become more productive. That means in the same hour of work, people today produce more value than people did decades ago. Technology is better, software is faster, systems are more efficient. One person can now do work that used to require several people. So logically, you'd expect this to show up in pay. If productivity goes up, income should go up too. But that's where things begin to separate, because productivity and compensation don't automatically move together. In many industries, productivity has risen steadily for years, but wages haven't matched that rise, not even close. And the reason is simple but uncomfortable. Your paycheck is not determined only by how much value you create. It's shaped by a mix of forces around you: what the company can afford, what competitors are paying, how many people can do similar work, how easily you can be replaced, how much leverage you have when you negotiate, and whether your pay is locked into a contract. So even if more value is being created overall, that value doesn't have to flow evenly to everyone involved. Businesses can become more efficient, output can rise, profits can grow, and wages can still stay mostly flat. There is no automatic rule that says if productivity rises, paychecks must rise too. That assumption feels intuitive, but the system doesn't work that way. Now let's talk about prices. Inflation simply means prices rise over time. Not all at once, not evenly, but steadily, enough that you feel it. Why does that happen? One major reason is that the amount of money in the system can increase. When more money exists, more money competes for the same goods and services. If demand grows faster than supply, prices rise. New money can enter the system through lending, government spending, and financial policy decisions. And when that happens, prices can start adjusting quickly, sometimes within months, sometimes even faster. But wages don't behave like that. Most people don't get paid in real time based on what's happening in the economy. Your income is usually fixed for a while: monthly salary, hourly rate, annual review, a contract that lasts a year or more. So while prices can update constantly, wages move in steps, and those steps are slow. This creates a gap. Prices move first, income reacts later, if it reacts at all. And that gap matters more than people realize, because once prices go up, they rarely come back down in a meaningful way. Now we get to the part that really explains the feeling. This delay has a name. It's called structural lag, and it's built into how the system operates. Think about how pay raises actually happen. You don't renegotiate your salary every time rent goes up. You don't get a text saying inflation was higher this month, so your pay has been adjusted. Instead, raises are reviewed periodically, often once a year, sometimes less. And even when raises happen, they often don't fully match the increase in living costs. Not because employers are evil, but because they face their own constraints. They're balancing payroll expenses, profit margins, competition, uncertainty about the future. So raises tend to be cautious, gradual, delayed. Meanwhile, prices don't wait. Food prices don't pause. Rent doesn't slow down. Utilities don't negotiate. They respond as conditions change. So the system creates a timing imbalance. Prices respond quickly, income responds slowly. And that gap is where pressure builds. This is why so many people feel like they're working harder but falling behind anyway. Even if your paycheck goes up a little, if prices rise faster, your purchasing power goes down. You're not just earning money, you're competing with rising costs, and that competition never stops. You might feel like you're running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up. Not because you're lazy, not because you made bad choices, but because the system adjusts at different speeds. And here's the part most people miss. The problem isn't just inflation, and it isn't just wages. It's the mismatch between how fast each one moves. Prices are flexible. Wages are sticky. Prices change in real time. Wages change in batches. That alone explains a huge part of the frustration. It also explains why switching jobs often leads to bigger pay increases than staying put. New pay is negotiated at today's prices. Old pay is tied to yesterday's reality. So when people say it feels like the rules changed, they're not wrong. The rules didn't suddenly break. They were always like this. You just feel them more when prices move faster than income. So if income moves slowly while prices move quickly, we're left with a deeper question. Who actually decides what your work is worth? Is it the market, your employer, your ability to negotiate, or something larger embedded in the system itself? Because the answer to that question determines whether this gap keeps widening or ever begins to close. And that's not just an economic question, that's a power question. That's next. After all, we're just asking, aren't we?